Welcome to another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show, another edition of Monday Night Football, and it feels amazing tonight, especially because rest in peace, Cero. Everyone talking about it. Goodbye. What a great show for you guys today. Thank you for joining us. Let's go ahead and get started. Welcome. We're going to have a wonderful Monday here at Monday Night Football with the Mexican Soccer Show. I'm your host, Luis Vasquez from Footmex Nation. This is an hour-long podcast dedicated to all things Mexican football. You know what? It's dedicated to all things beating the United States of America and maybe a little bit of Panama coming up too. So we're going to have an amazing show filled with excitement, filled with drama. I mean, we have it all. This is where you want to be. Thank you so much for joining us on this lovely Monday night, especially it's sports related. 2 days ago, Mexico beat the United States 2-1 in a very good match. It looks like every time Mexico and the U.S. now plays, it could go back and forth, and exciting football. I want to thank everyone that's already on the chats. Eddie Rocha, Eddie V, the guy with name 23, JP, Giovanni Sanchez, Salvador. If you're not on the chat yet, get home, get to a desktop if you can be on the chat and join us, asking us questions, fighting. It should be all good, though, because I feel like everyone's on the same team. There are no Liga MX matches to worry about. But saying hello to Mr. Eddie Rocha, saying, what's up, boys? And that's who. Let's go ahead and talk to our awesome experts that we have. We have Mr. Tom Marshall, who is in Panama, Canalero country, enjoying. He got there in a very early flight, leaving Columbus, Ohio at 27 degrees, and now in Central America, in rainy season in Panama at 80, 90 degrees. I don't know. Tom, how's it going, sir? It looks like you're doing great.
Yeah, getting there. A bit tired, but looking forward to tomorrow's game. And obviously, I mean, what an amazing affair over there in Columbus on last Friday. I mean, Rafa Marquez, who would have thunk it?
I would have never guessed that.
Nope. especially Cesar. Mr. Naive Moran in Mexico City.
We're going to talk about something later, geezer.
Oh, yeah. I know. That's what everyone's telling me right now, Tom. You're not the only one. Don't you worry.
Naive Moran, who I have to say, if he moves his head just a tad bit, he's got the Leon jersey in the background. Just want to point everybody out. Mr. Naive in Mexico City, who, it'd be great to hear the reaction in Mexico. Fueron al Ángel. What happened? How's it going, brother?
Well, good evening. We saw Tom Cesar. No, I think there was no Ángel. I mean, I think, but there is a sense of confidence in what's ahead. I think there was a lot of doubt before this match on what was going to happen. And I think this victory against the U.S. sort of brings comfort, after a week that was really strange, with what was going on off the fields. And of course, what happened on the field was a happy moment where there was a lot of union. But, so I think that's what I saw. I got here to Mexico City today, and the ambience, they look really confident ahead of the game against Panama tomorrow night in Ciudad de Panama.
Well, great to see. Obviously, we're going to be talking a little bit about Panama and what's happening. Tom's going to give us a scoop. And, of course, we're going to discuss everything. Oh, that's right. I forgot about Cesar. I'm just kidding. Cesar, how's it going, brother? San Diego, Tijuana area. If you don't know him, Mr. Cesar Hernandez works for many different outlets. Cesar, you got to be feeling good, man.
Oh, I'm feeling great. My correct prediction came true as well. I kept saying Rafa Marquez, he's our guy. He's
right.
He's going to lead Mexico to glory. A bunch of people were criticizing me, like, Cesar, what are you talking about? No, Rafa Marquez is our dude.
Disclaimer, for those of you who didn't watch last week's episode, it says that I was a big Rafa hater.
My articles have just been saying
reading his articles.
The roster.
Sometimes we're wrong in what happens. It's funny because Tom H for Footmex Nation, who I also said something about, Rafa should retire. And after I interviewed Rafa, they're like, well, did you tell him that you guys think that he should retire in that interview? People are like mad that we're criticizing, but this is our job. And to be honest, we can talk about Rafa. If it wasn't for that golazo, people would be saying, all right, he's done. That's it. He should never come back. But we'll see that. But Cesar, other than that, must have been a great 2 days for you. 3 days.
Yeah, no, as Naeem said too, just get serious for like just a couple, seconds. And there's some obvious distractions, in real life that, or maybe what I meant to say, this is an obvious, like, nice distraction from certain things that happened earlier last week. And it provided me, I wasn't very excited about the game at first for obvious reasons. And then as soon as that Rafa goal went in, like, it was pleasant. It was well needed. And I can't imagine how happy so many Mexican Americans like me, like how thrilled they felt after that win. So I'm definitely still in a little bit of good mood, but still cautious because Mexico still has a match tomorrow.
Well,
A match which could be just as tough too.
Yeah, and it's a good point they view because there are a lot of people, and to not talk about the elephant in the room, obviously the elections, and a lot of people are wanting one result, and a lot of people, especially the Mexican community, and I'll say it, had this was something to look forward to that could be either devastating or not, and the implications that this game was. We saw the unity in the field between the players, which was huge, which is going viral in the way that they came in. And obviously the atmosphere, a few bad apples there that I know I reported on, but overall really good. And we'll talk a little about the atmosphere in a minute. But let's go ahead and get started. Jump in. We'll have a little bit over an hour to talk about Mexico, and then we're going to go talk about what's coming up in Panama, which is equally important now to leave the 2-0 hangover. And now going into, what could be a really difficult game if it's not planned accordingly. But we already talked a little about reactions. Tom, let's go ahead. What are the things that you like that you saw just overall in this Mexico? And to ask you personally, did Mexico surprise you? Is this what you expected from the team?
I thought Osorio got an attack. I didn't think it would be to the degree that he did. But I thought it was a really, really good performance by Mexico. I thought it was something that fans can be proud of. Listen, Mexico went there. The US play in a little tiny 23,000 stadium. They do it for a reason. They go and play in a really cold place to get every single advantage they can. They're perfectly within the rights to do it. But Mexico, at the end of the day, went up there and absolutely dominated the game. I thought they gave a demonstration that they're technically quite a lot superior to the United States. And I thought it was a brilliant performance from Mexico.
A lot of people were saying that it could be because the Klinsmann's just totally, the U.S. journalists opening that game were like, what is he going 3 in the back? Tom, could it be because Jurgen totally just, was wrong about the lineup to start? Or maybe he was confused, and that's one of the questions that I wanted to ask Jurgen in the press conference was, are you ready for an Osorio that you have no idea what he's going to come out with because of all his experiments and rotaciones? Maybe that worked in the favor, but was that a little bit because Jurgen had it wrong in the beginning?
I think it was the other way around. I think Osorio reacted to Klinsmann. Okay. Klinsmann decided to go for this 3-4-3, and Osorio said after the game that he actually changed his formation at that moment. So I assumed that he was going to play 3 centre-backs until he saw the US team sheet and saw that they weren't playing with 2 central strikers. So therefore he decided to change his to a back 4. So it was interesting tactically, but I know the US journalists were very much like, oh, Klinsmann messed this up. For me, okay, that is an element in the game, undisputedly. But let's give credit to Mexico. They've lost there 2-0 4 times in a row. And then, they have the courage to go up there, take the game to the US, play with 4 forwards, and play some really, really good football in the first half. Now, I know people will say, oh, yeah, when Guardado went off, the US came into the game, they had the chances. Yeah, of course, the US are a really good team. There isn't a huge difference between these two teams. But at the end of the day, I thought Mexico did extremely well in that game. And obviously, were the flaws? Of course there were. United States looked really dangerous in the air. I thought when the States tried to, not necessarily become a little dirty, but trying to break up the play to try and get under Mexico's skin, I thought it worked. I thought that's why they kind of had their period in the second half. But if you look at those two teams and you're like, as a neutral fan, you're like, well, I like the Mexico team. I think that, I like teams that go out and attack, and especially away from home when you're playing your biggest rivals in the most hostile, not necessarily hostile, but the most difficult place to go and play in CONCACAF. For me, I love to see that from a team.
Yeah, Naeem, to you, surprisingly, when that starting lineup came out, did you have some doubts? Did you expect them to actually pull through in the way that they did in the first, 35 minutes?
I think overall, looking at the whole picture, I think the preparation before this game was stupendous. I mean, I think it all worked out perfectly. I mean, let's remember a lot of these players had quote unquote rest in the last friendlies, and in that game, players like Tecatito, Layun, Chicharito wasn't that good, but the main players Layun, Vela, Tecatito were the standouts in my opinion.
Mhm.
They did a lot in the attack, and that was part of the preparation. They weren't called for the last friendlies. The team went really early to Columbus to acclimate to the conditions in the city over there in Ohio. They brought in Imanol Ibarrondo as a mentor, a motivator sort of deal.
Who's
And
Emmanuel?
I think
For
that
those that don't know, who is that?
well, Imanol Ibarrondo is sort of like a coach in the sense that he tries to get the best out of the players, get the best out of human beings. That's his main
Like
job.
a sports, I'd call him a sports psychologist.
Yeah, sports psychologist.
Yeah.
I mean, he published books. He's a former football player. He actually played in Spain with Rayo Vallecano, but now he focuses on motivating athletes, not just football players, but coaches, tennis players, golf players. All of these, and I think he's a factor here because I did see the Mexico from 2014. The days prior to this match, I saw the Mexico from 2014. This team that was in a union, that was a family, that everyone was joking around, and we saw that on the pitch. I mean, I think what we saw in the first half was phenomenal. What we saw in the second half was a little bit iffy because I think the midfield sort of disrupted itself. Counting on Marquez, the 37-year-old, to lead the midfield, and you saw how many midfielders were coming towards him. 3 midfielders were basically just all of a sudden just eating them up. It was Herrera and Marquez. And so it was really disrupted there in the second half. But I think we knew from the get-go that Osorio is an attacking-minded coach. And this is what we like about this guy, that he's not afraid to attack.
And what was really like a pleasant surprise for me too is that when we saw that starting 11, we're just like, is he going to make this work somehow? When you saw all the, I mean, it was just, when I tweeted out the starting 11, that thing just like caught like fire, like crazy, just because everyone was so excited. You had Tecatito, Chicharito, Giovanni, Vela, Layun, and it was, and you're wondering like, is it
It's like
possible
a FIFA roster.
Yeah, right. So people were saying like, and you're thinking like, how is he going to make this work? Are they going to be able to actually work? I mean, you especially look at those players like a Vela or Gio. You're unsure. Maybe more so towards I'm looking at Vela. You're unsure if you'll have, I don't know, maybe the motivation to really do well. But man, that was a very, very pleasant surprise. Even in a game where Chicharito, I thought, was struggling. I think he did a good job to step back and try to win some of the possession, and he was fouled. So I think he did a decent job doing that. But he didn't find the back of the net. He didn't really have. I don't think he might have had one opportunity on net. But even in the game where he didn't really step up or shine for Mexico, you still had those Tecatitos, those Velas, those Gios, and especially that Layun. The Layuns who had a goal and an assist in that match. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that attack, especially when you looked at the roster that came out, and I kept thinking to myself, like, how is he going to make this work out? How is he going to find the best players from this highly talented list of midfielders and strikers and attackers and wingers? How is he going to make this work out? And during those first 20 to 30 minutes, it was brilliant. It was fantastic. I mean, I have my complaints about the second half, but that first half was really, really exciting stuff. And Mexico should have probably been up 2 or 3-0 by halftime.
Yeah, two posts. One from Tecatito and the other one from Vela and header.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And we got some, you mentioned Layun, which I think was man of the match.
Oh. Did we lose Risa there?
Mr. Layun on...
No. We're talking about Layun. Easy to talk about Layun.
Mr. Layun. I heard Mr. Layun.
I guess we should give Wiso a little bit of longer time. If not, I guess we could just take over. Wiso, anything? All right. I guess if he was talking about Layun, obviously, I think he was the man of the match. Did you guys? I think for me, I mean, it's just you could talk about you could talk about Rafa, but yeah.
No, Layun were brilliant. Obviously, with the goal cutting inside, I mean, I thought he understood the system very well in terms of backing up the winger, Tecatito. Tecatito, right, on the left, no?
On the left, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought that was brilliant the way they interacted. I thought he understood his role, and I think if you look at the average position of Layun in that game, you know, you get them stats where it's like average position of a player, and for a left back, he was quite. It was almost like it was a midfielder. I mean, he was quite central. It was a lot more central than you'd expect from a normal fullback. So it's almost like
that was supposed to be like the original idea was supposed to be if it was a 3-4-3, it's supposed to be Moreno, Rafa, and Reyes in the back, and Layun almost in that left kind of like midfield like role. So I think he was supposed to originally do that anyways, right?
Yeah, what I liked about Layun is the interpretation of the game, like Tom says. I mean, I think before the Mexico-US game, I decided to watch the Chile game, the nasty result, the terrible game.
Man, you watched that? Why?
But I decided to watch it because I wanted to see, because that was the last big game Mexico had with Osorio. So it was important to see. Everything went wrong in that game, to tell you the truth. I mean, that's what we know. The result says it all. But if there was one positive thing in that first half, where it wasn't that bad, it was Chile ended up, you know, scoring the second goal in the last part of the first half. So they went into the halftime 2-0. But the best part of that match, I think, was Layun's interpretation of the game. I mean, the way he moved in the midfield and he would go up to the attack. I think you can say that he's the smartest player right now that Mexico has. Mm-hmm. And in the game against the U.S., that was totally proven, you know, because he scored the goal and then he gave the assist. And the only corner kick Mexico had in the match, you know, you had to be really, really, really precise with that cross. And Rafa Marquez was right there on the spot. I'm pretty sure they practiced that a lot in the training sessions. And in that key moment,
sorry, guys,
worked out.
I don't know what happened. Somebody pulled the plug on my router. I had to reset everything. I apologize. I'm all like, gosh, Tom, again, you're I can't hear you. Naive, you too. Come on, Cesar, get your internet to get. Oh, wait a second. Apologies. And what I wanted to say is we have. I don't know if I was cut off, but I said that
we heard Mr. Layun, and then we talked about Layun.
Yeah, Mr. Layun. Here we go. He was able to talk to us regarding his golazo and a little bit about the psychology of it. So here it is. Here he is.
First of all, thoughts on the win?
No, I'm very happy. I'm proud of what we get tonight, and I think we are all working hard to get a new beginning.
Describe the goal. You know, when you're shooting, it looked like it was a little slow. You describe it in your head, thinking if it's going in or not.
Yeah, it was a little bit difficult for me to watch the ball because when I saw Giovanni and Bradley fighting for the ball, I thought the ball will remain there. So I was only thinking on put it and hit to try to score. And at the end, I guess it's Johnson, the one who can touch a little bit the ball, and that's why I didn't saw it very well. But when I saw it going in, it was a very special moment for me.
Congratulations for that. And then lastly, with psychologically, a lot of, you know, this is a very tough place to play. Did you guys prepare differently psychologically? Did the coach, the professor, tell you guys something different, or how was it?
We are trying, as I said, to get a new beginning, to do something different, to try to write a new history for us. And I think this one deserves that. Live it different, enjoy it different, and get a different score. And a different result at the end of the match.
Thank you so much, Layun.
Thank you.
There it is, Naive. You know that when I asked him that question, and Layun watches the show, of course. Thank you very much, Layun. You know, he
What's up, Layundowski?
He did say something very interesting, like live different. You know, do something different before you, and then you'll have a different result. You know, that's like the philosophy. You know.
It is. I mean, I think it was really important to sort of bring everyone together. You know, even include Vela into the picture. I was really impressed with what Vela did because of how every time he got on the ball, something special happened. And I think that's what Mexico kind of lacked in past games in Columbus. This ability to have players that can do stuff that no one else can do on the field. You have Vela and you have Tecatito on the other side. It was horrific for the U.S. defenders to defend that. You know, and on top of that, you had Chicharito and Giovanni. So I think what Layun says there, the key words are new beginning.
Mhm.
It's a new beginning for Juan Carlos Osorio's tenure in the national team. It's a new beginning for the players. Let's keep in mind the last hexagonal, Mexico only won twice. They only beat Panama and Azteca, and they beat Jamaica away.
The first game
This is
came
a
after the
good-
7th game. The first win in
Exactly.
the 7th game.
So I mean, this is the toughest way to start and to get a win in an environment that is totally against Mexico. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, it's pro-US, and every time Mexico has a chance to play in these environments, I think they win a lot, especially in the mentality kind of sense.
Mhm.
Because we always see them as a home team. Rarely we see them as a visiting team, and in Columbus, that's usually the case.
Yeah, very good. Especially, him coming out and speaking to us in English. Oh, that was awesome to hear, Mr. Layun. Let's kind of continue with with how the game went, especially with the second half. Before we get into Rafa, what went wrong on that, Tom? Seeing it looks like Jurgen finally realized and went back to the 4-4-2. We lost Guardado, which I think could have also done not necessarily, the reason why we didn't play well, but adelantaron las líneas, Jurgen, 4-4-2, and then also it looks like we were getting kind of dominated, kind of what the game should have looked like. Back and forth, it wasn't a total domination by the U.S. It just wasn't Mexico dominating, because there were times where we had gotten close, and but you saw these great runs by Pulisic. We saw some great runs by Wood, kind of in that contragolpe type. Very, very that we've seen before from the U.S. Kind of every time that the U.S. has scored in Columbus, it's sort of that way, or a type of Donovan run where there's a mistake done, but mostly mistake from our defense. What didn't you like that led up to that U.S. dominance before the Rafa goal?
Well, you can talk about individuals. Obviously Reyes didn't have a great game.
Hector Herrera.
Yeah, Herrera was, I thought he gave a lot of energy, but I don't, obviously he can be better. We know Herrera's better than that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I thought he did put a lot into the game, and he was trying to get everywhere. But I think, just as I would say in the first half, you have to give credit to Mexico for the attitude and the way they went out and attacked the game. I think you also have to give credit to the States. I mean, they came back after halftime. Obviously, they had a massive talk, and they were like, this is our home ground now. What's going on? We're getting absolutely, battered in a way. We're getting dominated in terms of style of play, possession, and all that kind of thing. So I think you have to give credit. Bradley, I thought, stepped up like he always does.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you look at that side of it as well. And obviously, like you mentioned there, we saw losing Guardado was massive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was difficult to replace. I mean, I don't know, from a tactical point of view, Osorio said it was a 4-3-3. I think with Guardado in the team, I saw it more like a 4-2-1-3. I thought Guardado and Herrera, it was almost like a double defensive holding midfield. Obviously with one or the other giving more license, but then Giovanni. But yeah, I mean, a game in Colombia, they're going to have a period. You know what I mean?
I'm still.
I think that makes quite a small amount.
I'm still. I know. I mean, we don't want to talk about this game for far too long, but once again, I'm going to bring up Rafa. I know I made that joke earlier, but he was really poor. I thought Rafa was pretty bad at the game. I think that I know, and I think I know Rafa ended up scoring the game-winning goal. I know he ended up getting that goal in the 89th minute, and it was fantastic. I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't excited. I was yelling and probably freaking out my neighbors, but I personally would have, if I was, and I was actually very happy with Osorio. Let that be known. I was happy with Osorio's lineup. I was happy with what he did. But when Mexico was losing the midfield, I thought the more practical decision would have been, instead of bringing on a man-for-man switch for Lozano and Vela, I thought you should have brought on Jonathan Dos Santos for Rafa, and kind of someone who can maybe help control the midfield a little bit more.
And I think that's where he took a gamble, and it worked out.
It worked. I'm just saying, most of the time this isn't going to work out.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think that's where, if you remember the Chile, and a lot of people, including me, were like, there was no leadership there. And if you saw Rafa in the first half, I don't think he was playing bad. In fact, I think he even took out, Wood at time. It was, just a beautiful Barcelona type of, he was in the left corner, and he just he does his little thing. The ball goes over the player, and he takes him out and gets the ball. I think in the first half, where we saw Mexico dominate. We saw Rafa, old style Rafa, not his crosses that we usually see. But then when he got moved up to the team mid, that's where I think he felt it wasn't him. And because Guardado leaving, I think that's when Osorio said, you know what, keep Rafa because I can't, waste if I'm going to try to, do something else. And yeah, he wasn't looking at pass, but he gambled and it worked.
I thought he played really well, Rafa. I really do.
Mhm.
I mean, I honestly thought that the authority that he showed, he wanted the ball every time they were trying to play out the back. We know Mexico want to play out the back. It's a Mexican player lumping the ball forward to Chicharito when you got Brooks next to him. You know what I mean? It's just like you're going to lose the ball every time. So the way you're getting around that, you have to play out the back. And it's like, it's so essential, Rafa. He's always looking for that extra just couple of yards to get the ball, give a pass, change the angle of play, recycle the ball one way, recycle the ball the other way. And it's just like the fact that he wants the ball, I think it kind of he transmits that to other players as well. And I know what you're saying, Cesar, in the second half. He's limited, He's 37 years old. He's a limited player. But what I would say is that, when Mexico were playing well and they had the ball, obviously Rafa, I think, shines. Mm-hmm. Play goes through him. But when they haven't got the ball and they have to sit back, then it's when you see his limitations. Because obviously, in terms of mobility, it's pretty poor. I mean, obviously, and he can be a liability.
Interpreting that last substitution was difficult because, you saw Vela's game and he was being really decisive in the final third. So you were like, why are you taking Vela off and you're putting in Chucky Lozano? But now I think we're seeing the trend with Osorio. When we see, for example, the game in San Pedro Sula, what does he do when it's 0-0? He puts in Tecatito and Jürgen Damm, the wings. He's really obsessed with the wings. What happens in the Uruguay game in Glendale, Arizona? He puts in Chucky Lozano, another winger, and what happens in the second half? Mexico gets the win. Here again in the US, he puts in Chucky Lozano, decides to go to the win in the speed. I mean, it was amazing, Chucky, those minutes that he would just fly in the right wing like it was just nothing.
Well, Vela wasn't doing that anymore.
Vela has that touch though, so you never know. He could get one shot on goal.
But it wasn't like, why are you taking out one of the best players out? I mean, I felt it because a minute in, Chucky had another chance, a perfect chance that
but also keep in mind what Cesar said about that. Maybe you needed a little bit more balance in the midfield because it did look like at any moment, the U.S. would get a counter without the door and wood, and it would be over.
U.S. ended up finishing the game with more shots on target than Mexico. I think that they were perhaps a little unlucky not to get a second goal, to be honest. I think a lot of that was because, and I know I agree with you, Tom, with Rafa's distribution. When Mexico has possession, and his distribution is fantastic. I just think that Jonathan Dos Santos could do something very similar to that while providing a little bit more defense, perhaps could provide, at the very least, providing more pace for coverage when the U.S. is attacking Mexico. And that, I think it's a risk to have Rafa in there.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Cesar. Yeah, they had more shots, but I felt the U.S. had more shots that were going in the first half than in the second half. There were shots, sure, but nothing as scary as there were two instances in the first half, even though we were dominating, that I thought the U.S. was going to score for sure.
Tom, go. It was a game of two halves. It was a game of two halves. I mean, I think the US probably deserved a point, mate. I don't think, but, you get a corner and Rafa gets free. But at the end of the day, I think the substitution, what Naib was saying there about showing what Osorio's plan is, I don't think just the wings. It's like, okay, at that point in the game when he made the substitution, I mean, I think everybody in the stadium and watching thought US are going to win this. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I think that Osorio, that just shows Osorio's mentality. Mm-hmm. He didn't want to remember the World Cup against Holland. What did Piojo do?
Yeah.
Aquino.
Put in Aquino.
And what was the mentality? What did it radiate to the players? He radiated, we're under it now. Let's all sit back and hope. Osorio goes, right, you know what? I'm sending Lozano on. I'm going to put him right next to their fullback, so their fullback can't go up. And I tell you what, when we get the ball, they're not going to like it when Lozano gets the. I think that in a way it did kind of wrestle back not control of the game, but it gave Mexico a renewed presence.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say.
Obviously, he was limited because he had to make two substitutions.
No, that too. And I think that's also, and if we're going to say something about that, it is Osorio probably didn't want to make that sub. What is it? The 28th minute or so, the 30th minute?
He
He didn't want to make that sub. He didn't want to have to bring Rafa up there in the midfield. So that's something to say about Osorio as well. But yeah, I'm just still saying that I think it's a risk to have Rafa in this starting 11.
I think that's where we've seen that Osorio are gonna take the risk, and then 7-0 happens.
Yeah.
And it's where we're at. Rafa scoring though. Let's talk about that play. I mean,
yeah.
Who did not see Rafa scoring by himself? In fact, we were right there. Tom probably had the best view right in front of him, about 20 yards up, and you saw Altidore just kind of go, we don't need to cover him. It's like what is he gonna do? And I really felt like I don't know, and I know that he's done this type of goal before, but I think maybe they were waiting for that double header, which we've seen Mexico score like that before. Someone runs out to the first pole, heads it in, and puts it in the penalty. So one of our players heads it in. Dos cabezazos in the area is usually a goal, but Rafa just it was like the easiest goal of his life, in the way that he did it, and it was just.
I've been criticizing the guy, but I thought actually that was a pretty impressive goal. I thought that was an impressive header.
I just felt he was so confident for it. It's like he knew exactly where everybody was and where to put it. I almost saw it even in slow motion. Just no way is that going to go in, and it just goes in perfectly. But the U.S., how you not, especially who had more goals on set pieces in the Mexican history in the last, 15 years in important games in the way that he does. Rafa Marquez. Not covering Rafa Marquez was huge. So that goal spectacular, and obviously again it had to be Rafa Marquez, right? There's
a comment here. He left Al Kaiser on so he could get his vengeance against the US.
Yeah,
so that's as good as reason as any. Ivan Fernandez saying that.
No, but I also think that the team was really focused. We have to point that out. I mean, I think after that goal that Bobby Wood scored, there were reasons to be afraid that the US was going to take the win. And in that moment, you have to be really focused. And I think it really made it look like this team is really united in a sense, and has already surpassed, what happened last summer. Like Yun said, it's a new beginning. And I think that marks it, with Rafa Marquez being the hero. I know that he's 37 years old, but this guy just seems larger than life.
Before we go, I do have Rafa Marquez really quick commenting on his on that being there. I asked him a question about being there in the very first one, and now he's scoring is what he said. At the very beginning of the 2-0, you scored tonight. Personally, how big is that for you?
It's a new opportunity to do a new story. So tonight was that opportunity, and for me and for all the team is very important.
And one last one. There you go. I mean, he didn't really say a lot, but at the same time,
but listen. This is the thing there. All right, Rafa said that new opportunity, new story, new historia. You ever want to translate that? But in that, Osorio's saying that every player that has spoken has been talking about this new opportunity. It's almost like what's happened here is that 7-0 from Chile, and I think it's the right thing. I think it's a positive. It's like they just pressed the reset. They pressed the reset and right, everything that goes on forward now, and that comes from Ibarrondo as well, who's been working with the team. It's basically his message is coming out through the players here. They're not talking about the past. They're saying, the team, like, it might be a bit cliched, but past, but we want to write a new chapter in the ongoing story. It's that kind of mentality that they're trying to work with, and I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I think that in modern sports,
kind of like a second chance.
Yeah, but I mean, in sports in general now, I think that, in some ways Mexican sports are behind, and Mexican football is behind because, sports psychology and all this, it's a whole new field. It's not even new now, but it's developed so much. And I think it's good that the national team are kind of embracing these new ideas.
All right, well, really quick, so we can start talking about the Panama match that's coming up tomorrow. Let's talk about just kind of good and bad right away. If we can talk about the bad, we have some players, Reyes, Herrera. What else? What does Mexico need to work on that you saw from this specific game? If anyone wants to tackle that,
I thought Talavera had some important saves,
yes.
But I think he looked a little anxious in that.
Talavera in Mexico is 5 times better in Liga MX is 5 times better than Talavera in El Tri.
I think the confidence is just different, but I think that luckily that has an easy fix right there because you have Ochoa and Chuy Corona on the bench. But I'm still a little hesitant about the defense. I'm still a little unsure about it. I think Reyes was a little underwhelming. Not saying he was bad, but saying a little underwhelming. I don't know if there's an ideal kind of setup down there. And I think not saying that Salcedo, I think that Salcedo should be a starting player, but after that red card that was given to him, now that kind of might make it a little difficult. I'm not saying that Panama is going to make things difficult for Mexico, but I think that's something interesting to consider. Perhaps like a little bit of a weak point that may not be taken advantage tomorrow, but like it's just something to keep in mind.
If we had to pick something that would worry, it'd be the defense.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Cesar. There, I think Osorio struggled to find that kind of combination and the chemistry.
Mm-hmm.
I think the forward three. I think he's just got so many options. You know what I mean? He's loving it, and I think at the back it's like, all right,
Reyes on the left.
It's the opposite.
Mm.
Reyes still experimentative. He doesn't have that position, and he's playing that. I don't think he's comfortable there. When he was in El Central, I didn't think he was bad when he was in El Central, but we went over to the side. It's just like I think Reyes cannot be. In fact, you almost saw Carlos Vela going back and forth. Covering, doing his job. And
I think in general though, in terms of the centre back positions, I think Mexico needs someone to step up.
Yeah,
and I think Salcedo's in that process. Let's give him a bit more time in Italy, but he's in that process there at Monterrey. Also beginning his career. Araujo. I know some people don't like him, but he's not that old. He's from the Olympic generation. I mean, Osorio's mentioned him in Europe before. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but Araujo, why couldn't he play in a European team and make that starting spot his own?
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, for example, let's keep in mind before this match, we thought highly of Fabian because Fabian has been having an impressive season in the Bundesliga, and Osorio didn't even have to use him. I mean, that says a little bit about how this team is rolling. Raul Jimenez played excellent in that CONCACAF Cup final over there in Rose Bowl, and he didn't even play in this match. I mean, that's a deep squad you have there, if you think about it. And about the defense, I think it just needs chemistry. It needs repetition. That's the most important thing. Repetition.
You can't say repetition in front of Juan Carlos
Osorio. But I think with the defense, you have to understand that it's a really sophisticated area. I think Moreno has had his ups and downs, Layun his ups and downs, but those are two that are solid starters. In the
Moreno
defense.
or Salcedo right now. If it was one position, Moreno or Salcedo.
Yeah. If it was, I think Salcedo and Moreno would be the starters. Actually, Salcedo, although he got the red card, I liked his temper.
His NFL type of last minute. Dude, I'm just gonna take his knees out.
No, but I think
you don't see that
Mexico.
in a Mexican player. You don't. I'm sorry, but that was like that's something that we kind of saw that in San Antonio. Remember, Naive? Just that different type of
exactly. And I think in the second half it was scary because Ayala was not sort of in it, and Moreno was also not sort of in it, and the only one that was in it was Salcedo. And I think that was crucial. That was crucial because even Talavera was shaky. So to see Salcedo in his sort of getting used to this notion of being an important national team player, and to see it in the first game, there was a red card, but look at what he did in the whole second half.
Why did he get? And I'm sorry, I guess why did he get the red card?
And that's it was strange, pushing or making time. I think it was a double yellow.
And I was editing my player grades at that point and just been like, oh my god, just like I gotta get this in time. So yeah, I missed a little bit of that. I'm sure Tom was freaking out too. I'm sure he was happy after the goal, but then freaked out because he probably had to change his entire story.
I can't believe people were typing during that. I mean, I was trying to like type and my fingers could not. It was so cold. when I put gloves on, I'm like typing L in like 5 different letters because they're so fast. It was definitely something. All right, guys, let's move on. A historic win for sure, but it wasn't like we beat an amazing team. And let's not freak out. It's great we beat the U.S.
That was arguably the hardest game of World Cup.
No, true. But let's say we're not going to win the World Cup. I mean, this isn't elevate us from like great to amazing status. This isn't, we beat our rival. Great, we beat our rival. It's huge. We should be proud. We have something to, talk to against any U.S. fan. There is no more domination. I don't think there ever was. We were very even. Now in official matches, Mexico is el papa. I'm sorry. In the last 3 Gold Cups, CONCACAF champion, and now Columbus, I can officially says that the U.S. is on the decline versus Mexico. They can win all the friendlies they want, fine, but we'll win the real matches.
Let's just be careful until that game in the Azteca.
Yeah, no, okay, for now, right? For now, but we're heavily favored. I mean, let's just say if the Azteca game wasn't in 2 months, we would be heavily favored, especially after what we saw.
Yeah,
something that 2009. 2013, I was a little worried Mexico coming in, especially what happened with Chepo, what happened with Sven-Goran Eriksson, and all that stuff. I think that was that was Aguirre who coached them in 2009. But so let's just say, let's be happy, let's joy. It was amazing. Rest in peace, Cero, finally. But here comes the hex. Here comes things can turn around very, very fast with losing, maybe getting a tie at home versus Trinidad and Tobago or Costa Rica that's going to come up in March. We have Panama tomorrow. Panama, a team that, if I have to say, a team that's been growing a lot in the last 3 years, coming to semifinals, finals in the Gold Cup. We've seen how close they've gotten to get to the World Cup. They're not, this amazing team, but at the same time can give us a little bit of a headache. You saw last year's Gold Cup in the controversial PK, Guardado. And now there's tomorrow. Tom, you're there. What's going on? What's the storyline? And before we get into what the players are going to come in, how is Panama and how you're seeing this team?
No, it's good. It's really, really nice place. I'm enjoying it. Yeah, it's different from like the other Central American countries that I've been to, like El Salvador and Honduras. It's like, there's like really heavy, it's secure to go out, you know what I mean? And like, all the ESPN production team let you take taxis and stuff. Whereas if you do that in El Salvador or Honduras, they go absolutely crazy at you. Yeah. They're like, you can't be doing that. But I mean, Panama is in terms of the fans and stuff, I think that they honestly believe that they can go that one step further this World Cup and make it. I mean, Panama have never been in a World Cup. And so, obviously last time they just collapsed against the United States, opened the door for Mexico to get in there into the playoffs. So I think they're a really well organized team. I think Bolillo Gomez has been there a while now. I think a couple of years. Since 2014, so he's got a defined playing style. It's 4-1-4-1, which tells you pretty much how they play. They pack the midfield. It's not just 2 rows of 4. They've also got that defensive midfielder in there to break things up. Only 1 striker, and obviously what they're going to do, they're going to play, I think, in a similar style to they did in Chicago. Maybe different players, but they're going to sit in their own half, even at home, and wait for Mexico, win the ball, and then attack as quickly as they can on the transition. So I think it's going to be a good game. I think they're going to try and foul Mexico as much as possible, make it as physical and just an ugly game. I think that's going to be the what Panama are going to try and achieve tomorrow, and I think that it's going to be a really, really difficult game for Mexico.
Very difficult game indeed. Yeah. Any of the traveling countries, as you saw, which is kind of funny because in the very first Hex game for everybody, the visitors won.
All of them.
And Tobago.
Yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind too. That like Panama's going to have some motivation. They just beat Honduras 1-0. In their first away match. And as Tom mentioned, in Honduras, and they're going to be trying to get their ticket for the first World Cup ever. And if they're to get this win at home against Mexico, I mean, it's just the confidence that could soar for that team, and especially, like I said, they just got that win recently. So I don't know. I think it's so to keep an eye on. Maybe we can even talk about the past games that they've had against Mexico. Now, obviously, we could bring up, as we said, the 2015 Gold Cup, them missing out on the World Cup. I think they have they might be a little bit of a sore spot. They might feel like they might be able to get some redemption if they were to at least get a draw. Or at least get like a win tomorrow.
Yeah, but looking at the past games from 2010 up to now, the Panama-Mexico games usually are won by a difference of 1 goal. They're either 1-0, 2-1, There's 0-0s there. In 2013, in that Gold Cup where everything was falling apart for Chepo de la Torre, Panama beat Mexico twice, 2-1. Recently, Panamanian clubs have beaten Mexican clubs like Tigres and Rayados. You know, stack Mexican clubs that you would assume they could defeat these Panamanian clubs, but it hasn't been the case. Bolillo Gomez, Juan Carlos Osorio, both Colombian coaches. Bolillo already coached in a World Cup. Osorio wants to coach in a World Cup.
No, I don't want
wants to coach in a World Cup with Mexico. Let us hope, and to actually have a coach finish the 4 years. And we'll see exactly how it goes. I mean, I think we got that Chilena. Remember that Chilena with Raul Jimenez? I mean, what would have happened had that Chilena? If that Chilena hadn't happened at Azteca, Mexico maybe wouldn't even have gone to the repechaje. I mean, that's how important that Chilena was in Azteca.
There's a lot of things.
No, definitely.
A lot of things.
I think the other thing to point out here about this game is that, and about the mental side of what's going on with Mexico as well. I mean, I think this year, 2016, has been dominated by the 7. Everything that's happened since then has been, the reference has been the 7-0 defeat. Everything before was absolutely brilliant, and then after the 7-0, it was like, wow. And then obviously the Columbus thing. But listen, under Osorio, Mexico have won in Honduras first time in 22 years. They've won in the United States for the first time in 44 years. They've won in Canada for the first time in 23 years. And obviously now against Panama, it would be the first time in 16 years. So, you know, Chicharito today was asked about, you know, this team having kind of that ghost of the 7-0 following them. And he was like, there are no ghosts here. He's like, you lot believe in the paranormal, but we're here doing our thing. We're coming off of winning in the United States. And it's like, you kind of, you know, if you take that 7-0 out and you look at, you know, the results and what's gone on with this Mexico national team, I mean, no, you can't completely take out one game, but it's pretty positive. And I think Mexico's game tomorrow in Panama, and think, player for player, Mexico are a better team, and I think they've got every chance of getting a really good result there.
Yeah, but let's I mean, that's where we go wrong. We see Mexico having a great game, and then we can, you know, speculate that Mexico can play. So you know, we got to also ground our game, and that's where, you know, there's not going to be Vela, there's not going to be Guardado, there's not going to be Salcedo. All three of those guys played an amazing part in that win against the U.S.
But as we mentioned earlier, there is some depth. Like I said, I'm worried about the defense, but I think I'm intrigued by like what we could really, you know, mess around with in the midfield, where we can have a Marco Fabian, where we can have a Jonathan Dos Santos, maybe even Orbelin Pineda getting in there. And I think, you know, as we mentioned, there's depth now, and even within those backup players, still man for man, Mexico should be beating this Panama side. I even interested seeing perhaps even Raul Jimenez taking a Chicharito spot, and seeing if he can get.
I think he will.
Yeah, and seeing if that's going to happen. And people have been talking about that as well. And, you know, just recognizing Osorio's rotations. I mean, that's a talking point in itself. You know, that's a podcast in itself.
He's gonna keep going with it.
So I think that's interesting to consider, and that's what intrigues me the most. There you go, Ochoa. Yeah.
I don't see. Based on, I think, for example, Moreno will be in the 11.
Yeah.
Layun will be in the 11.
Yeah. I don't Layun. These are players that
Chicharito. I think the fact that Chicharito spoke in the press conference today makes you believe that, you know, he could be in the 11. And I think the lineup, I still got to review the lineup a little bit, but I wouldn't be surprised if this lineup in Panama will be really similar to the one he used in San Pedro Sula, where he actually started Raúl and Chicharito together up top.
He likes Raúl. He said that before. Against physical teams, against very physical teams like Panama, Jamaica, Trinidad and Tobago.
Exactly, and I think Marco could work from one of the wings, and maybe Tecatito or I think Tecatito's another guy that could be or Lozano, and I think that could work well for Mexico.
Especially
because
they have poor. And I'm not saying poor. I'm just they're not very effective defense, especially in the wings. I can definitely see a Tecatito or a Chucky Lozano just having a great game because technically they're better than the players that they have. Something that against the U.S. obviously you saw. So
yeah, and in this show we talk highly of Orbelin Pineda, and I think after what we saw from Herrera in Columbus, You know, if Orbelin plays and takes advantage of this opportunity, watch out. I mean, I think this is where you can add that fresh blood and see what they can do, because they could see this opportunity as a once in a lifetime opportunity, and that actually helps in the essence of building a team like what Osorio is trying to do. You know, the competition inside the team.
So you guys are okay with 6 different players coming in: Fabian, Ochoa, Jimenez,
I think with the depth of that,
Orbelin. So we're okay with rotaciones, team rotaciones, everyone.
I mean, I've never really been. I mean, my complaint was my biggest one was from during the Copa America with the goalkeeper decision. I know that was always my biggest, problem with that.
Yeah.
But I've never really had a massive problem with the rotations.
Osorio's changing everybody. Tom.
Yeah, no, right. This is my point of view. Okay, what I'm down with is having a Mexico manager who's got a proper philosophy, a really studied, grounded philosophy based on real facts and science and a lot of years studying and working within the game and trying to implement it, rather than somebody having switching things around just because he wakes up on the wrong side of bed or something. Osorio's got a plan for this national team. You know what I mean? He's got a plan. He has to make the players buy into it. For me, that's the biggest problem with rotations. I think Mexico have got decent enough squad depth. I mean, it's not as what it should be, but I think it's decent enough. I think the key thing, the players have to buy into it. You have to bring Ochoa and then to Panama, and he might not play. I mean, how's he going to feel after that? For me, these are the bigger issues, that how the players deal with coming around and not playing. But then again, if you play the same starting 11 for 2 games in these qualifying, then people you pretty much know. I mean, under Miguel Herrera, you pretty much knew the starting 11. What does that do for the squad play? So I don't know.
I mean, it's
no one does that in the world, guys.
But like, for example, when I see the squad depth that Osorio has in this particular call-up, and I compare it to the Copa America Centenario, the depth is better. It's 1,000 times better, and I think you have to point that out. I mean,
16 out of the 23 players were there.
There's a big difference between having Marco Fabian and Jonathan Dos Santos at a good level in this team than, for example, having, I don't know, Molina, who is a decent guy, but he's not at that level.
I thought Molina would have been good on stuff.
Listen, quick question. I don't know. I've just been thinking recently that with the way Osorio left out these players for the Copa America, he had this funny relationship with Giovanni. That Vela came in for the first game and then just never appeared. And just these the weirdness that was going on, and then all of a sudden it comes to this game against the States and they're all in there. Osorio wasn't testing the players, playing with the players, firing up these players, so they're absolutely desperate to play for the national team, rather than what we had before, where they were in no matter what. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, was he throwing down the gauntlet? Was he throwing them down a test and saying, if you want to be in this national team, Vela or Giovanni, well, you better be playing well at Los Angeles Galaxy. He's never going to be happy that he's in MLS. But if you are in MLS, then you better be playing well. And Giovanni responded. Vela, to be fair, in the last couple of weeks responded. I don't know if I'm giving him too much credit there. What do you think?
I could see what you mean, but then I think that's might be a little hard to believe with a player like Vela, who seemed to be okay. I'm not going to say content, but all right with the fact that he wasn't really involved with the national team for quite some time. Actually, just not even just, I'm not saying having a starting spot, but just not even being a part of the roster. I think that's an excellent point. I think there are probably certain players who have to strive and push for that starting spot, like a Gio who'd be like, all right, I have to step up in Galaxy.
I mean, yeah.
Maybe
Osorio.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, just Osorio quickly with Ferguson. Obviously, I grew up going to United games, and Ferguson used to do it all the time with players. He used to, take them aside, just shout in the faces. I mean, leave them out for games, and they'd be so mad and desperate to get in. Yeah. And I'm just wondering, is there a comparison there? I don't know. It's just a thought.
I mean, it's a thought, and I think it kind of does make sense. I mean, this is a guy that really likes to plan things out, and I think the way that everything has been planned in the last days has been really amazing to watch, just because of how he sort of technically prepared the team prior to the U.S. match. I mean, the preparation was impeccable. I mean, you have to admit that's sometimes part of succeeding, of of having good preparation and organization. I was surprised with Vela. I mean, I think we had our doubts here. We thought, what Vela are we gonna see? Of course, Vela didn't score a goal. He didn't have an assist, but that attitude he had on the pitch was just amazing to watch. It was like, I'm gonna beat you all the time because I'm better than you. The stuff that we want to see from him all the time. Yeah. We always wanted to see that, and we saw it. And now, moving forward, I mean, I think if you can have all of those players tune into the idea, it will be scary in the good sense. I'm gonna say it. Scary in the good sense.
The maturing as well. I mean, Bella's going back, and he's going to become a father, and you imagine that's going to affect him in a way. And that group of players are now like suddenly 27, 28.
Yeah.
Anyone else a little bit before we get out of the Vela thing? But I don't think he should have came if he knew that there was going to be a kid coming, his way. I'm just a little bit. I don't see. I know. Great that he came and he helped us, but if you knew, and the reason why we had some knowledge that he wasn't coming 100%. That's why we published it in Food Mex Nation. I was 100% sure coming from the club that he wasn't going to come. They didn't tell us why. It was like, no, he's not going to come. Makes sense after the game. Okay, now we know that he's having a baby. We didn't know that before the game. We saw this kind of before. I don't remember who it was. I think it was Rafa. They don't let you know that this is happening. I get it. It's personal. But it's a little odd that he came, first of all, and now he's leaving. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah. Maybe he made some kind of deal with Osorio. Hey, okay, I can come. Maybe my kid's not going to be born until 4 days afterwards. Definitely not going to make the Panama match, but I'll come for one game. And if you really need me, I really need you. Okay, cool.
Because that kind of stuff has happened already with Osorio. We saw it last month with Marco Fabian. He played a good match with New Zealand. He scored a goal. Then he went back to Germany and he played an amazing game against Bayern Munich. He was a man of the match. Mm-hmm. This kind of planning, it can be criticized, but in the long run,
I think that's where the planning goes. That you're not okay. So then Salcedo, he's not playing, and now he's going back because of some personal issues he's got to take care of. That's where I feel like, for example, you make a commitment, you're gonna come unless it's something, maybe it is something big, but okay, great. But then we see, Guardado staying, for example. He's not going back to Europe. He's staying with the team, even though he's not playing. I just kind of see a little bit of things where I'm just kind of like, I could see a Spain coach. You're like, no, even if your kid's coming, if you're coming, you're gonna stay. If you're not coming, you're not going. It's like that little part of the discipline in the players that I've seen a little bit off in Osorio. And it was just a little odd in the sense that now we don't have those players. You definitely need Vela.
But I just think he's trying to obviously get a group together.
Yeah. I guess
is to trust in the player and to make the decision. I mean, obviously they would have had the conversation with Vela, and that's why he called up 25 players as well. Complete sense, if you know what I mean.
Maybe they should let us know.
Just be like, just send us a tweet the day before.
Tweet, just tell us why. What's going on?
That's all we're asking for.
I don't know. Well, guys, we're running a little bit out of time. Want to appreciate, obviously, your input and everything that's happening. Huge win tomorrow. I'm excited again. Felt like I wasn't really excited for coming with the U.S. Like, okay, it's coming. I know it's coming on Friday. It came fast. Okay, what can we expect? Another loss, maybe a tie, hopefully a win. I think it energized the crowd. I thought we saw what the potential of the players. We saw players excited, playing up to their potential, and there's no surprise that this team is doing well when all the players are doing well personally in their club, right? And in what we maybe didn't see before, and the players that are playing are in the team, as we've seen in Osorio. Tomorrow comes a very hard game, and I can see lapses of the 7-0 what happened before because of the gambling that Osorio does at times. But hopefully he proves us wrong. Like he had been before that 7-0, he was proving everybody wrong. We didn't like how El Tri was playing. We didn't like the rotaciones, but they were beating teams. He beat Uruguay, he beat Chile before the Copa America, and then obviously came the devastating blow of the 7-0. But tomorrow, very, very important game for Mexico because not only, you win the U.S., you win 2 games in the Hex away from home. That's 6 points. I think you only need to get to 15 to be completely safe. You get 3 wins at home and you're in.
How many did Mexico have for the wild card? Was that 11? I think it was 11, right?
I'm telling you, 2 wins in the last
2 wins,
Hex. I
5
mean, that's
ties,
embarrassing.
That's what I'm saying. So you get these 2 wins. That's 6 points at away.
And then we get
all-
5 ties, and then
Yeah,
and then we're set. And then we're set. We go play against New Zealand.
But it'll be huge, right? Other things that were announced that we didn't talk about, they play tomorrow, and then there's a game against Iceland in February, and then obviously against preparation, that preparation game in Iceland in February, and then the game that's coming up, which it's Costa Rica, right?
And real quick, I think we're watching. I mean, I think it was really interesting. It's really interesting to see a Mexico coach take these risks, with the 4 forwards, go with Tecatito, Chicharito, Vela, and Giovanni. Because prior to this game, we remember, when Piojo used these 3 guys against Costa Rica and that friendly in Orlando was a disaster. Well, look, he used 3 plus Tecatito, and it looked amazing.
Yeah.
This is a coach that fits the Mexican player, the style. I think we like it as a fan. I mean, I think that's something that people want to see. And tomorrow it will be another chance. To keep in mind, Mexico's being the visiting team here. It's supposed to be that you're supposed to go back and defend and play on the counter. But Mexico, no matter where it goes, it can be Canada, it can be, any place, they will always play an offensive-minded type of football. And I think that has to be appreciated. And we'll see. Hopefully it works out more. I mean, I think Nestor Araujo told me it would be great to start 6 out of 6. I mean, they're just 1 game away from that. So let's see what happens tomorrow in Panama.
And that could be very, very, very important for Osorio, who, of course, any Mexican national team manager, his spot is he's always any manager's in the hot seat. And 3 of the 4 first World Cup qualifying matches are going to be away. If Osorio can walk away with a win in this second away match, he's going to be heading into March with 6 points already in hand. And who knows what he could do after that? Maybe he might even I'm still saying it's tough for any manager to make it all the way to the World Cup.
The U.S. is going to Costa Rica, and they have never beaten Costa Rica over there, so they could be 0 points.
Yeah, not even. That's what I was gonna all right, take the journalists and let's be fair, guys. The U.S. can have 0 points after 2 games. That's crazy. That's hilarious. I hope it happens. It'll be amazing. Bottom and see. It'd just be great. But no, keep Klinsmann until 2060, please. Interesting. Let's talk it just really quick before we go. The U.S. goes against Costa Rica tomorrow. Very, very tough environment. If it's the Azteca, if it's Columbus, I think Costa Rica, which it isn't the Saprissa, it's not La Cueva, but at the same time in El Nacional, which they haven't lost a game in El Nacional ever. I think they've never lost a game in that stadium. So and they've had some important teams go there. So interested. There, I think, no? Yeah, that was a horrible game. And on the other side, we have Honduras and Trinidad and Tobago. And why don't I know this? Is it at?
I think it's in Honduras actually.
Honduras. So Honduras gets 2 home games.
They got
2 home games. Yeah,
2 home games. Oh, crazy.
There you go. So yeah, because somebody would have to get 2 away, and that's us. And the other 2 is a home and away. That makes sense. So interesting to see what happens. Let's go with predictions before we leave. First of all, what happens in the hex outside of Mexico, guys? Does the U.S. get a point? Anyone?
I don't know. I'm gonna say that's gonna be just for fun, just because I hope this comes true. I'm just gonna say it's gonna be a narrow loss for the U.S. men's national team.
I think they get dominated like they always have been there. The Ticos are ready. They're pumped. It's that remember when they took them to Denver? And last qualifying, it's their revenge. They've been talking about it. I know some Ticos, they've been talking about that match still. They just ran a little promo yesterday on kind of a revenge thing they did in Teletica that somebody let me know. So they're ready for this game.
They're just going to light the field on fire. Let's do this.
You gave us cold.
It was an ice.
Give you.
Just going to light the field on fire. Let's see what you guys do.
Anyway. No, Costa Rica had in the last friendlies, they went to Russia and they played a great match over there in Europe. They're Brian Ruiz, Joel Campbell, they're reaching a good moment. Bolaño sometimes always gives good shows. So yeah, I think Costa Rica will take the win over there in San Jose, ¿verdad? San Jose.
San Jose in El Nacional in San Jose.
Yeah.
Tom, for you, little prediction on the U.S. He's like, I don't talk about it.
US, I don't know. I mean, you expect them to lose, don't you, really? So I think they will. I mean, they never win there, and why would they win this time? I don't know.
Prediction from Mexico. They never win. Why would they win in Columbus? They never win there. All right. Well,
I mean, has anything changed? I mean, I don't think this US team's as good as previous US teams.
yeah.
Yeah.
Got the potential in a couple of years to be. I think the likes of Brooks, the likes of Pulisic, and they've got a few good young Yedlin, a few good younger players, but they've got no Donovan, they've got no Dempsey.
I'm a little worried.
Howard's out.
I'm a little worried.
Howard's out again.
I'm a little worried for that the Pulisic, the Wood.
And we always should be.
Saying it.
Honestly, I've always felt that Mexico and US, we kind of do a little bit of this. We always believe we're so much higher above them, but I think we oscillate a little bit together. So.
Yeah.
All right. Trinidad and Honduras. Honduras needs to get a win. They've been had horrible results. They're finally at home against Trinidad. Will be as surprising, but I think. Pinto not doing what he wants to do, what he once did with Costa Rica. But let's go ahead and talk about Mexico, Panama. What happens tomorrow, Cesar?
It's going to be tough, as Tom mentioned. They're going to more than likely, and we saw that in Chicago. Bolivia playing with a 4-1-4-1. I think Mexico walks away with a narrow 1-0 win. It's going to be an important win, obviously. Cero's going to have a lot of confidence heading into March, man. He's going to have those 6 points behind him. But yeah, it's going to be a tough, like I said, 4-1-4-1 against Mexico. But they're going to get a narrow 1-0 win.
Naib.
I think it's gonna be a martes de Chicharito tomorrow.
Two
martes
goals.
de Chicharito, and it's gonna be a really Chiva-esque day because I think Marco, Fabian, and Chicharito are gonna have a nice party going on over there.
You were correct about Layundowski, man. You said it. I
Yeah,
praised
yeah.
you. The minute he scored, I didn't even put goal. I just put you were right, Naib.
No. I mean, let the audience know that these predictions is just
we know. I mean, come on.
We just do them for fun. We do them for fun. Sometimes they come out right. Sometimes
we
they come
spent
out totally
hours of research beforehand just for the prediction part.
We had the election right.
Oh my God.
Did I just stamp the show? Did I just?
Every single detail. But yeah, I see martes de Chicharito tomorrow. So I say 3-0 Mexico.
He ties the Borghetti record. Or it'd be great if he breaks the Borghetti record. Actually, I like to break it.
I think he breaks it tomorrow. I think it breaks
Two
it
goals?
tomorrow.
Two goals?
Yeah, he breaks it tomorrow.
All right.
2 Chicharito, 1 Marco Fabian.
Mr. Tom, are you still there?
I missed my Chicharito prediction.
Oh, wait, sorry. He's like, he missed it. All right, I think Tom's gone.
I like to think that it's going to be 1-1.
Tom goes, good stuff. I reckon Chicharito will, horrible English accent.
Can't be bothered with the game, to be honest. Not going to go. Just going to go back to the canal.
I'm going to, he's like, you bunch of bastards, he says. All right, let's go ahead and end the show. I'm going to go with, 2-0. We've been wanting and aching for that 2-0. I think it's gonna happen, and people are gonna be happy with the 2-0. And we'll be with 6 points, ready to go in the.
Tom says a draw. Tom says 1-1.
Oh man.
Oh, what? I didn't get that.
We just got the text.
Yeah, he did. He said 1-1. It's right here on WhatsApp. He said 1-1.
1-1.
All right, guys. Amazing show. We went a little bit over. You can keep going. I know. Thank you to everybody that's on the chat. We had a lot of you guys, over 50 people that were on talking. Ivan says USA is going to the repechaje. So
that'd be pretty sweet.
You know what? As much as there are rivals, the US not in the World Cup would be pretty bad.
I guess we're looking at our Conca Bros and trying to secure those spots for the World Cup.
Yeah. So but anyways, amazing atmosphere. I was there. Just want to quickly say, US fans were on another level in this game, and maybe it had to do with whatever happened during the week. I have never been to a game where I haven't seen, I just saw so many U.S. fans go up to Mexican fans after the game, congratulating them. Just so much peace. And I wanted to share that in the show for those of you that didn't get to go, that would probably have thought differently. And there's so much rivalry and so much heated, and especially what's going on with the elections and all that, regardless of what side you are. A time in the U.S. where right now you being a person, a Latino, might not be feeling well, regardless of what you think. I saw something, and I videotaped it. So, a great U.S. fan, a little bit inebriated, but sometimes we say what we want when people have taken a little too many drinks. But I do want to say, people in the American Outlaws and fans of the United States, if you're watching the game, thank you for being an amazing host to all of us, not only the press but also the Mexican fans. As a Mexican fan that were there. There were so many instances. I mean, I saw a banda in the middle of a ton of U.S. fans, and U.S. fans going in the middle of it and dancing with them. Or I saw after the show people hugging, say, "Hey," after the game, saying great things. "Hey, you know what? You're welcome here, and we'll see you at the Azteca." Completely different. And I definitely have to share that. There were a couple of times in one of my videos is going crazy in Mexico. By the way, just going. That we saw some other fans kind of yelling at people and stupid stuff, but that was one instance, and I have to definitely say it was
they're bad apples in any group. Bad apples.
It's exactly what I said. It's exactly what I said. But people were taking that out of context, saying that was after the game. I did a bunch of copyright issues, by the way, the night before. I'm like, no, you're using it wrong. That's not how it is. Anyways, guys, Naib, thank you. Mexico City. If another place where I would love to be is Mexico City when Mexico wins. I think everyone's watching the games. And then Cesar in San Diego, thank you for joining us.
Well, I'll be in Chicago tomorrow watching the game, though.
Oh yeah, you're going to Chicago?
Yeah, I might be hanging out with the colorful kit actually. So we'll see.
Oh,
Right now. Yeah, there you go.
He's definitely. I always thought a picture like a Jorge Campos type of guy. No, the guy's like 6'2", dude. He's huge.
Yeah, no, that guy was. I think he was like 7'9" actually.
Yeah, 8'11". He was.
Yeah.
All right, guys. A lot. We can just keep on talking. What questions do you guys have? It's after hours at the Mexican Soccer Show. No. We gotta go. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Please keep sharing our show. Love it. We're getting a lot of fans, and tweet us your questions. Follow all of us on Twitter. Keep the whole English soccer podcast news alive. Thank you, and we'll give it to Mr. Naib Moran to close us off with this wonderful voice.
No, we'll hopefully. We're heading into the Liguilla time here in Mexico. We didn't talk about it much, but there's a lot of teams involved.
Okay,
your León is involved.
I know.
Necaxa, Monterrey. So keep that in mind. Well, we have another Clásico Nacional in the Liguilla that's going to be decided this weekend. So keep that in mind. And also, it's looking good for Mexico right now for Osorio and El Tri, and that's always good news. Always good news.
All right, guys. Have a wonderful day tomorrow. Mexico wins. We'll see you next Monday on another edition of the Mexican Soccer Show in Monday Night Football.
Goodbye.